Okay, so I'm talking about our group and how we use the engineering design cycle in our project. This is the engineering design cycle. You define your problem, search for solutions, narrow and select a solution to your problem, build your design, test it, and then go back through it to solve any problems you might have with your design. So when defining the problem for Freshman Engineering Design Day Precision Launcher, we had to figure out how to throw a foam projectile, something, 30 feet and hit a target. So we were wondering about how to do that, and then we came up with a solution where we were going to build a giant slingshot or crossbow looking thing and launch either a foam dart or a foam ball. And so we all thought that was a great idea, so we spent a month going about building it and designing it. We turned in our milestone on how to build it, and it ended up failing miserably because we didn't test our concept, we didn't do a preliminary build, and it was just bad. So the second time we went through the design cycle, we spent 2 hours in Brian's basement brainstorming about solutions and what to do. We looked at everything from air cannons powered by combustible hairspray to trebuchets, and when we got to narrow and select, we decided we were going to do a trebuchet because of the constraints we had, which were the 5-pound weight, the minimal human intervention, and the 4-foot by 4-foot cube that everything had to fit inside. We then went to build our trebuchet, and we used some guidelines from the internet and stuff, and ended up with a decent one, but it was alright. And we went to test and check, and we realized that the arm was way too heavy and it wasn't going to work. So we had to go back through the design cycle a complete second time, and this time, when we defined our problem, our arm was too heavy, so it wouldn't be out. The counterweight of 5 pounds wouldn't make it fly. So when we searched for solutions, we walked through Brian's house and found every piece of light wood possible. And eventually we found a piece of hockey stick that we cut into about a third. It was about this wide and about 20 inches long. And then we rebuilt the arm on our second day of building using that. And when we tested and checked, the ball threw about 25 feet and then bounced the rest of the way to 30 feet. So we had successfully used the design cycle to build a trebuchet after failing once.
Yes, Design Day. Occasionally during our Design Day project, we had to face certain design challenges, and some of these we faced include our original design not working as we originally intended or hoped. From there, we had to come up with the alternative ideas that Mike mentioned earlier. Upon deciding to use our trebuchet design, we had to alter several of the initial designs to improve our launcher. One of these was the arm. We found out that the arm was too bulky and large, so we had to find an alternative arm that we could better use to fit our requirements. And that's where the hockey stick comes into play. We also had to adjust our sling length so that the trajectory would be better. Our other crucial problem was to adjust the angle of how our sling would be released on, as if it was released too high, the ball would just shoot straight up in the air. Likewise, too low of an angle means the ball would just shoot straight to the ground. And we alter this by adjusting the pin at the top of our arm. The only other problem besides this was to fit our trebuchet in the 4x4x4 foot box.
So Caleb, if you could redo Freshman Design Day, what would you do differently?
Well, to start off with, I would probably choose a different project. But since I'm stuck with this one, we should probably have used better time management, such as using less time talking about one project and more on its functionality, which we had issues with. And we could have talked about different launchers we could have used, such as air cannons and catapults or trebuchets. And whenever we try to test our concept, we should spend way more time on that since our first project was awful. We could have also used better resources. We had a lot of resources that we could have used, but we didn't because we didn't think they could have helped that much, but in the end they would have. And money-wise, we had a lot left over, which means we were way under budget.
Well, we didn't do as well as we had hoped at Freshman Engineering Design Day, but we did alright. We hit the target once, and all of our shots went forwards as opposed to straight up or backwards into the crowd, which is more than other groups can say. We didn't place, but
we were pretty happy with our performance.
So Brian, if you had to give advice to next year's precision launcher groups on how to make a wicked awesome precision launcher, what would you say?
Well, there's many things that I would say. My first thing would be to start early. It's going to take a lot longer than you think to finish. We thought that ours would take about 1 day and ended up taking about 2.5 days. The next thing would be to come up with many initial ideas because, well, simply most of them won't work. The next thing is don't assume that 5 pounds will be enough to make it go 30 feet, because it's not. Also, you need to test all of your ideas because some will work way better than others. Don't make it too complicated. Sometimes the most simple idea works the best. Find light wood for any arms because you can't afford to waste any extra weight. Take a little time to find the best foam-like material that will travel the best, straightest, furthest, etc. You also need to think outside the box. Most people would think of wood initially, but maybe a sports product will work the best, and it'll be light and it'll work well. You also need to find a house. Working at a dorm is simply too many distractions, and you won't get the work done.
Was that it?